Hey friends, how are you? Normally this is the place where I would be setting up the the usual cold open joke or whatever to start the live stream. Um I have been fighting audio issues today. It took me like 5 tries to get the news video today about the Wizards of the Coast nonsense working. So I don't know if my opening credits audio is going to play. Do me a favor, guys. If you're sitting out there in audience land, let me know if you can hear the music for the opening credits because I don't know what's going on. So, with that said, also let me know if there's an echoplex on my audio. Um, yeah, let me know whether or not you can hear the music for the opening credits. And without further ado, here's our lovely intro by my friends at Bards of Greyhawk. Well, that's great. It's good to know everything is working as it's supposed to be. Good evening to you folks. I, of course, am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you live, loud and clear on a nice, pleasant evening in the swamps of Central Florida. So I am glad to see you all. I'm glad to be seen by you all. Welcome to the show, and a big special welcome to the folks who have subscribed recently. We've had quite the number of subscribers popping in lately, and I really, really, really appreciate that. That is wonderful. So as I told one very nice lady today, who I was, I'm not going to dox her and put her personal information out there, but I said, hey, there's two things you got to do now to get these free AD&D modules, and you guys have already gotten them. I've already shared them with y'all, but you gotta subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're watching me on Twitter or you're watching me on YouTube, you got to say hello. You got to say hello in the comments. So, Ian, good to see you. Ardu, hello. Your seat at the table, you barely remember the 80s. Then you are doing it right. Damien247, Timothy, how are you? It is a D&D Q&A. Yes, it is. Jack Photon, hello, hello. Daniel Rowan, Bob Schult, Damien247. Zach's off playing Pathfinder tonight, so. It depends on which D you're talking about, Tim. The first one is a dungeon, the second one is a dragon. See? That's just it. But anyway, welcome everybody. Let me tell you a little bit about the show. In case you've just subscribed and you're like, okay, all right, I wanted your cool looking free AD&D modules. I subscribed to you on YouTube. Now you're live streaming. What's this live stream about? 5 nights a week, guys. 5 nights a week. We go live here on this YouTube channel. And I play first edition AD&D and first edition Gamma World. We have just kind of open live chats like this where you guys can ask me questions and I can answer questions for you guys, where we interview great guest creators, cool folks that I just meet out there on my journey. I invite onto the show and we have a lot of fun. And so there's a whole lot of stuff that we like to do, and I live stream about it. Sometimes if it's a newsy thing where we got to strike while the iron is hot, sometimes you guys will get a news video like the one I posted up today. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And thank you for subscribing. I think you're going to have a lot of fun hanging around with us. Emperor Ming, good evening to you. Hopefully you won't blast us into space until such time as you deem it necessary. Your seat at the table graduated in 85. Class of 88 here. Class of 88. 85 was the most 80s year of the decade. You know what the lost year of the 1980s was? 1989. 1989 was such a tumultuous year, historically speaking. Honestly, who among us can say, because that was when the party kicked off. We had a decade plus party that kicked off in 1989 for many, many, many reasons. You know, it was the end of the Reagan years. It was the end of the Cold War. It was the end of the 1980s. The computer revolution seemed to just, you know, put its foot on the gas and really start taking off. 1989 is kind of the lost year. The AI Friends, that's when second edition AD&D came out. It was the end of first edition AD&D. Desert Shield. So what a time that was. What a time that was. But again, it is a year where everything is just kind of hazy. Information Society's Hack came out. That was a good album. If you like that kind of cyber industrial dance freestyle kind of sound, it is what they started with their self-titled first album, and they perfected with Hack. Now, Peace and Love was a pretty good album, but I think it was a little bit more laid back. TXG, thank you for your service, just the same. In 77, your friend would rush home from elementary school every Wednesday to borrow his brother's D&D books. You got TSR's address and wrote away for catalog. That is fantastic. Old P.O. Box 756, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where I'm made to understand something's happening up in Lake Geneva this weekend. I'm not there, so it can't be that important. So I don't know. You liked I made a video about Sigil. Do I plan to do? Well, I mean, okay, so Ardu asks a good question, and I'm going to put this up because this kind of pertains a lot to sort of the nature of the show. I have I have a strong desire to bring TTRPG news to the world. What really kickstarted my channel, what really took me from, you know, I'm just kind of meandering, I'm picking up viewers here and there, you know, lose a couple over the weekend, gain a couple over the week, was when the Wizards of the Coast OGL debacle happened in January of 2023. And 2023 for Wizards of the Coast was abysmal. It was absolutely awful. I'm not making this up, and you can go watch my videos if you don't believe it. There was not a month when Wizards of the Coast didn't screw something up. Early in the year, stuff was coming out about their malfeasance multiple times a day. There's days you can go back when I release 2, 3, 4 videos, because I'd be doing a video, I'd be looking stuff up, and there'd be new things coming out. So I was making video after video after video. Yeah, Nick, that was 2 years ago. But here's the thing. No, it was 2023. Or no, it was 2023. Jack, the convention is GaryCon. So what I found out when I started putting up these news videos, because I felt like it really was, it was something that was impacting the whole community, What I found out from the comments was a lot of people were saying, hey, I saw this on the front page of YouTube. You're the only person putting out news about this. I'm getting my news from you. Thank you for putting this news out there. And I realized, hey, I got a voice. And everything that blew up, I was putting out a video. I tried to stay. I got pretty angry about one thing. It's not my proudest moment. But by and large, I tried to stay away from outrage and doom and gloom bait and just report the news as it came off. And so a lot of other creators did too. There's people who were getting like 20,000 views. Like they would just drop a video like mine. I'd get like 2,000 views and 50, 60, 70 subscribers a video. They get 20, 30, 40,000 views and hundreds of subscribers. I knew that wouldn't last. I knew that wasn't sustainable. And going into 2024, even there were some mistakes into 2024, I kind of realized, and I had a good talk with Timothy Imholt about this. The outrage was exhausting and it was burning me out. And it was to the point where once the dust had settled and you realize that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro were just kind of chugging ahead regardless, like one of those Terminator tanks, it's just grinding over the piles of skulls and it doesn't care, right? But I realized that reporting on every single thing as if it is some catastrophic end of the world, it's like, I didn't want to pursue that because it's not what I started my channel to do. With that said, and this is an answer to Ardu's question, when something newsworthy comes up that can have a broader impact on all of us at the D&D table, whether you're playing original D&D with just the booklets, like the white box, or heaven help you, the wood grain box, or you're playing 6th edition D&D and everything in between, if there's something that can really impact us all, I'm going to do a news spot on it. And that's why I did the news spot on this. Stuff may come and go, maybe Wizards of the Coast does a boo-boo with Magic the Gathering. I'm not a Magic the Gathering channel. Maybe there's maybe a character build for 6th edition comes out that's so broken that people are complaining about it and canceling their D&D Beyond accounts over it. I'm not gonna, that's not in my wheelhouse. But, if Wizards of the Coast says, hey, we're releasing what we think is going to be the 6th edition version of what Gary's vision of Greyhawk was in a box set, of course I'm going to talk about something like that, And the VTT is something that really lots of people can use. Lots of people can use. So when I heard about that, I was like, let me look into it. I waited a day and then I jumped on it and I said, yeah, okay, that's it. And I didn't jump on it for clicks. I jumped on it to bring news to you guys. So when stuff like that comes up, Ardu, you better believe I will be on it. I will be on it. So thank you for asking that question. That's an important question. And I've missed some comments here, so I'm going to come back through. I would tend to agree with you, TXG. I think there's probably a fair bit of stuff going on that has gone out that hasn't really changed, or that hasn't really been mentioned yet, but hasn't changed in terms of their behavior. That is correct. Your seat at the table, they fired 90% of the VTT development. Now, 30 people were laid off. That's 90%. There's 3 people remaining. I would wager those 3 people are golden parachute C-suite executives who were like uber overseeing this, right? This was just a project where multiple project managers reported to them. The 3 remaining they're going no, they'll move them somewhere else. The 30 people who lost their jobs, they will have to move on to other things. And let me be 100% clear, and I mentioned this in the video, I do not celebrate people losing their jobs, ever. There's bills to be paid. There's families to be fed. There's homes to be paid for. It is with very rare exception that I will cheer on someone losing their job. I think I can count the number of people on one hand, and none of them are in TTRPGs. Well, now I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to go negative. Your seat at the table. Tell me what your channel is. Is that what your channel is called? Your seat at the table? But you jump for the clicks, guilty. No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. They've abandoned this VTT, Tim. They've abandoned this approach, and I think a lot of it. Now, I actually saw something, and I wanna share this with you guys. I meant to put this in the video, and 5 attempts it took me to make the video, and I kept having to scrub it because they all had audio problems until I got a working one. And by the time I realized that I hadn't done this, let's see. Where is it? Let's see. So this website is called Dungeons and Dragons Fans. And I want to put this up here. All right. So one thing that I want to mention about this, and here's the link. I don't believe in just leeching off of other people's stuff and doing reacts. So please go read this yourselves. But I want to scroll down. This is a leaked email. And this is attributed to Dan Rawson, SVP of Dungeons and Dragons and Hasbro Direct. So this goes, Dear team, I want to share an important update regarding Sigil. After several months of alpha testing, we've concluded that our aspirations for Sigil as a large standalone game. Note, he says standalone game. He doesn't say D&D tool. He doesn't say add-on for the tabletop. He refers to this as a game. This is the thing. This is what I wish I'd mentioned in the video. I want you to look at this, especially Tim. With a distinct monetization path will not be realized. What this is telling me was they looked at what people are spending on virtual tabletops, and understand they are exceptionally late to the race. There's Roll20. There's oh my gosh, there's so many. But Roll20 is like the 800-pound gorilla. There's a VTT that actually has tools specifically for first edition AD&D. I know some people who developed those tools. I think it is Foundry, TXG. But I think they looked at what people were spending their money on in VTTs and realized, look, no, people are not going to pay for the deluxe magic missile effect pack. People are not going to pay to win. And dungeon masters are not going to tolerate people who sit down and try to pay to win. What do you mean my character doesn't have a talisman of the sphere and a sphere of annihilation? I just bought it and it's out there on the VTT. I remember years ago, I was trying to play a MechWarrior game. It was one of the seemingly endless number of MechWarrior online battle games. And we were winning. We were pushing up the enemy. We were having a lot of fun. And then we started getting hit with airstrikes, with cluster munitions, with artillery. It just, death was being rained on us. And the guy who was leading us in battle, a buddy of mine, yells, "Oh crap, they're throwing credit cards at us." Basically, the guys on the other side were buying airstrikes and buying guided munition strikes and so on and etc. They were losing the battle and they just spent money to win it. That is something that nobody who loves Dungeons and Dragons wants in their tabletop game. Pay to win, exactly. And I think that WotC realized that the pay to win mindset was never going to work for Sigil. And when they realized they couldn't get on that same grind as World of Tanks, as the MechWarrior games, as with what's the other one? Not Conflict of Nations. It's another tank battle game, and I'm going blank on it. But it's like it and World of Tanks are the two big ones out there. They realize, well, if we can't have their level of money, we're not going to bother, because we're not going to create something that's fun and good for people and support it and have like less than 10% of people paying for it. And so I think it is that line. A large standalone game with a distinct monetization path will not be realized. As such, we cannot maintain a large development effort, and most of the Sigil team will be separated from the company this week. Yada, yada, yada. We're proud. I want to thank you for your understanding. Blada, blada, blada. Now, I mentioned this in the news video. Oh, of course, Tim. Of course. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. American Brand Canada. That is evil. That is evil. Yeah, and that's Wonderful Wizard of Games. Again, a perfect example. TTS for $60, a free D&D plugin that a fan made. They are late to the party. This is the comparison that I made in the news video today. I guess we're kind of, today was the 45 version, and this is the album cut of the news about this. But Jim Ward told me in a video, and you guys can watch the interview I did with Jim Ward if you dig through the videos where he talks about this. In 1994, at a gaming convention, Jim played a game, and it was just a card game, but it was fantasy based. And you could trade cards, or you could go buy a new pack of cards. And Jim realized Jim was a design genius, guys. Jim Ward was a design genius. He was the the V8 350 small block of game designers. You turn the ignition and he's going to go, and he's not going to stop until gas runs out or you tell him to stop. Jim Ward went to Lorraine Williams and said, this is going to be the next big thing. We need to buy this company called Wizards of the Coast so we can get Magic the Gathering. And she said, that's stupid. We're going to make our own. If you think a collectible fantasy card game is such a big deal, start designing one, and we'll put out a Dungeons and Dragons themed one that will just pull everybody in and get everybody focused on D&D. Imagine if she had listened to him. Imagine how different the world would be if she had listened to him. By the time Wizards of the Coast, or by the time TSR got around to making a tabletop collectible card game, they were already being eyed for acquisition by Wizards of the Coast. That's how fast it was. 1994 to 1998. A company that put Magic the Gathering out so they could pay for expansions for Robo Rally, the game that they broke big with, or thought they broke big with, to be printed, was now going to buy the 800-pound gorilla. And they did. Wizards of the Coast has now found themselves in the same situation. Wizards of the Coast has found themselves late to supper. It's already done. Foundry, Tabletop Simulator, Owlbear Rodeo. Roll20 is the 800-pound gorilla. Now, you guys might not remember this. But in that whole mess, that whole digital disaster that started happening in 2023, one of the things that Wizards of the Coast was pissing people off with was saying, if you want to do a VTT, you can't have animated spell effects. Their reasoning behind that was, you're just trying to turn it into a video game then. That's not why. That was a lie. That was a smoke screen. We knew it was a smoke screen then. Well, when they came out and said we're doing our own VTT, that was why. They didn't want a better looking VTT than what they could bring. And that included animated spell effects. I don't know if that's still out there. I don't know if that's still in the OGL 1.1. Somebody else will have to check that up. I'm not going to go dig up old stuff. So there you go. There you go. That's where we find ourselves today. Now I heard this today, and I think I mentioned this in the video, and if I didn't, I apologize because I'm mentioning it now. And then I'm going to turn and I'm going to talk about positive stuff. What do you call it? Currently, or at least when I was trying to put the video up today, Sigil was offline. But one thing that this article mentioned was that they are moving it into D&D Beyond General. It may literally have been a case of we're changing some hooks in front end code, so it's going to be down until we get that done. So that's what was going on with that. Let's see. Theater of the Mind is absolutely free. It's 100% free. And that is the problem that they face. That is the problem that any company that wants to get rich with TTRPGs, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's, this or that, that is a problem that they face, is that one guy needs to purchase 1 to 3 books. And that's it. That's the end of it. And he needs never interact with you again. 1 to 3 books. And I have plenty of 1-book role-playing games around here. Here's a perfect example. Gamma World, first edition Gamma World. This by the way is the print on demand for Gamma World. It's not the original. For better or worse, this is a 1-book game. You can run a whole campaign with everything that's in this book. Not up to a certain level. It's not the basic version, and then you go buy the advanced version, and then you get the monster manual. Everything is in here. All right. This was, I think the box set was $9.99 when it first came out. Or maybe it was like $14.99. But even if computers had existed back then, I mean, how do you monetize that when you can say, hey, virtual tabletop and digital dice and collectible digital trading cards and so on, et cetera. I can just go, nah, I'm good. And that is the hurdle that companies are going to face. Now, Dungeons and Dragons is uniquely positioned. Dungeons and Dragons is uniquely positioned in that it is a property. It is a marketable property. And people that decry, like, oh, Wizards of the Coast just wanted a lifestyle brand. They wanted to sell t-shirts and hats and frisbees and beach towels and candy and toys and Halloween masks and video games. Can I tell you what Gary wanted to sell in addition to Dungeons and Dragons back in the 1970s and 80s? T-shirts and hats and frisbees and beach towels and candy and video games and Halloween masks, coloring books, paperbacks, pencils, everything. The Wizards of the Coast is keeping on a fine tradition that began in 1977 when Gary saw how big D&D was going to be. The D&D coffee maker. I have a D&D waffle iron, Dungeon Minister, and welcome, by the way. I have a D&D waffle iron. They got my wife. I actually have 2. One of them is not technically a D&D waffle iron. It's it makes little mini waffles. One is like a wizard, one is a fighter, and one is a dwarf. It's adorable. So yeah, the merch thing never bothered me. Does it at least make waffles in the shape of the ampersand? The D20 waffle iron, unfortunately, it doesn't. It makes a waffle with a D20 shape, but there's no numbers. It's like they made a polyhedron, but then they didn't put any numbers or an ampersand on it. Space Opera and Traveler. We are waiting for the new D&D of 2025 and Baldur's Gate 4, which will come out in 2027. Yep. Hey, Yan Zhao, good to see you. Hello, my friend. Hello. D&D Needlepoint and Oscar Mayer. There were D&D, was it Hot Pockets in 2022 like gamer snacks, like Hot Pocket D&D themed Hot Pockets in 2022. It's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, I want to talk about positive stuff. You know what? I just kind of want to I want to talk about some positive stuff. That AD&D game thing. How do you define at will powers? 1 per second. So at will powers, Jack. We have an actual AD&D question, and I'm happy about that. So an at will power in first edition AD&D, at least, is a power that the being who can do it, usually it's a demigod, a demon prince, some high level being, other planar being, um, or it's an artifact that lets a character do it. Characters very rarely, if ever, get at will powers. But an at will power is an ability that can be used just as many times a day as the being in question wants to. It's only ever once per round unless it is specifically mentioned otherwise. I think Tim has Tim has some D&D Converse. So that is that is your definition of at will powers in AD&D, Jack, and I hope that answers your question. Um, I want to talk a little bit about positivity. So periodically, and a lot of you folks might be here because of this. If I'm not, if all's quiet on the news front, and I look over and my YouTube channel has been kind of stale, you know, I'm getting average views on the live streams, but there's just not a lot newsy to talk about, and I don't really think like a standalone video. I'm just like creatively bereft. Every now and again, particularly when I get a lot of folks who've followed me over on Twitter, and hello to you guys. Um, I'll say, hey, if you guys follow me here on Twitter, here's my YouTube channel. All this balderdash I talk about on Twitter, I talk about it in spades in live videos and news videos over there. Please go subscribe over there. And here's 5 free classic first edition AD&D modules if you'll do that. And so I did that. And I had a lot of folks were like, hey, these look pretty cool. Yeah, I'll do that. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's give a little, get a little, you know? And usually I get, hey, thanks. These look neat, whatever. Someone reached out to me today who had done that. And they're just getting in. Hey, live long and process, Jack Photon. Thank you for hanging out with us for a bit tonight. They're just getting into TTRPGs with their family. And they got the role of being the dungeon master. They played some Shadow Dark. Their spouse played D&D back in the 70s and 80s. And their spouse is excited, but their spouse wants to play. And so they subscribe to me on Twitter. They subscribe to me here on YouTube. And they asked, they like, when I said, hey, thank you very much. Here's the link to the modules. Knock yourself out. They came to me and they started asking me questions. And I really, really enjoy that. Not from an ego standpoint, but from the fact that you got to remember we're a community out here. I know that term drives a lot of people up the wall. They're like, look, no, I'm not part of a community. I play Dungeons and Dragons. Somebody else plays Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't matter. All right. We're not a community. But I shared some ideas and some thoughts with them. And it was really nice. It felt really nice to help this person, to share with this person the little bit of knowledge that I've managed to acquire. Their question was about prep time. Oh, thank you, Aprimo. Thank you. And I'm glad you like the modules. But it was an uplifting moment because so often, it's like even amongst fans of first edition AD&D, there's a tiny subset of first edition AD&D players who will tell. Now, guys, look, I don't want to break my arm patting myself on the back, and I don't want to sound like I'm going down the road of negativity here. I worked for Gary Gygax. All right. I'm friends with Alan Hammock. I was friends with the late Jim Ward. I'm simpatico with Rob Kuntz, and I'm going to stick a pin in that because we're going to come back to it. And at the risk of getting this live stream demonetized because I'm about to say a dirty word, I know what the fuck I'm doing when it comes to playing Dungeons and Dragons. I know what I'm doing. There's a tiny little subset in the TTRPG space over on Twitter that will absolutely scream at you that they know the one true way to play AD. Not even Dungeons and Dragons in the overall. Like if you're not playing AD&D, you're not playing real D&D. That's my shtick. And I say it with a smile. I don't edition war anymore. Are you picking up what I'm putting down, guys? This same pack of myopic idiots attacked Rob Kuntz because Rob said, guys, we didn't play this way. Gary didn't play this way. And said, well, frankly, you don't know what you're talking about, Rob. I'm reminded of the scene when that cabbie who wrote a conspiracy theory book about landing on the moon confronted Neil Armstrong and what happened to him. It was very much like that. But the point is not to talk about them because I want to give them as little bandwidth as possible. The point is, even when you get down into the narrowest, notebook paper thin of niches, there's still infighting or people who try to have infighting. And for a bunch of them, no, it's not tongue-in-cheek and just, lol, I trolled you just to see you get riled up about it. They actually think this. And if you're flying over this strange hinterland and you look out the window of your skycraft and you see this internecine battle going on, you might think, oh, they're just a bunch of assholes. Don't land here. Being able to answer this person's question and having such a positive interaction with them, it was spiritually fulfilling. I felt like I had found a Zen garden where I could sit and I could talk with this person and say, okay, here's what you've got going on. I recommend this. Their question was about prep time, and I made a few suggestions. I said, grab published modules. Don't be afraid to run a published adventure. But also don't be afraid to make the adventure work. Look, maybe you're not to this person, I didn't say this, but maybe you're a Dragonlance fan. Maybe you like my modules. My modules are all set in Greyhawk. The free ones that I give out, they're all set in Greyhawk. Maybe you take them and you say, no, these are in Toril. Is that Dragonlance, by the way? Is that the world of Dragonlance? Is it called Toril? I apologize if it's not, Dragonlance fans. I'm not mocking and making fun. I say go for it. Maybe it's Forgotten Realms. Maybe that's your jam. Maybe you want to try and cram my modules into Dark Sun. Good luck. You know. But don't be bound by them. Have fun. For God's sake. This person was coming to me saying, how do I have more good or fun? And I said, let me word speak to you. Let me tell things to you that will knowledge think your idea brain. Kryn, thank you. Wonderful wizard again. See, that when I say I have the best looking and smartest audience in all of the 5-night-a-week classic tabletop RPG live stream channels on YouTube, this is what I mean, folks. This is what I mean. Well, hello, Stephanie Craig. Were your ears burning, ma'am? I just like getting that good word out there, guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight, Stephanie. Thank you very much. I just like sharing the good word. Go listen to my interview with Gary. Go listen to it. And you know what? If you leave this live stream and you're like, I'm just going to go listen to his interview with Gary instead. I get it. There's I mean, Gary talks about what he's like, but you know what? At that point in 2002, Gary really wanted people to play Castles and Crusades and Dangerous Journeys. He wasn't much talking about AD&D anymore. But he certainly didn't tear people down and say, well, those people who played 2E were jerks and dummies. He had a lot to say about TSR management because he didn't like them for obvious reasons. So I love the positivity, guys. That makes me happy. That is a fulfilling thing. And, you know, when Stephanie here came and she asked me questions, and I said, okay, here's what you can do. You can go publish modules. You can ask ChatGPT. I just like right then, I typed in, hey, ChatGPT, can you create a 5th edition adventure with 10 locales? It's goblins. They're led by a couple of ogres. They've got a moderate amount of treasure and a few magic items. They've got some prisoners that need to be freed. And Stephanie backed me up. It did it. That's a thing you can do if you're stuck for prep ideas. It's like fast food, right? Hey, I'm driving home. I'm not going to be home till 8 o'clock. I'll stop and pick something up, kind of thing. You know, you don't want to do it every night, but it can certainly help. This is supposed to be fun, and I want to maximize people's fun. Now, I want to maximize people's fun because I think the funnest Dungeons and Dragons is first edition AD&D. I think this is the funnest. Maybe you're not playing that. Maybe the D, like you've gone out and you bought 5e, you bought the starter set, you bought, Lost Minds of Phandelver, Curse of Strahd, which is how you say it if you're from Boston, by the way. Curse of Strahd. She's a wicked piss of Strahd. That's the beautiful thing, Daniel. Maybe they are. Maybe Stephanie is going to put a time limit on that adventure if she decides to run it and say, you guys don't have too long to get out there. The ogres are probably going to eat the captives. Or maybe not. Maybe they just want to rough them up and make them clean their lair. Who knows, right? But I'm not here to sing the praises of AI. I'm not here to sing the praises of AI. I'm here to sing the praises of being positive. I talk the evangel of classic Dungeons and Dragons because it's what I love. And you guys know how I feel about first edition AD&D. You know exactly how I feel about it. And in case you don't, in case you're tuning in and you don't, let me reiterate this. To me, first edition AD&D is Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. It's not perfect. It's copied from here and there and dabs and in other places swaps, but nothing has brought it all together like AD&D. Other editions are a little too clean for me. AD&D is the edition that mentions drugs and torture parlors and drow cities and blood magic and has naked chicks in the book and the demons on the cover and the blood dripping off of the swords. It's the one written in High Gygaxian, the one that dares you to take a bite of the apple and see eternity. AD&D has a Tomb of Horrors, the first and best, baby. No save or take damage. Your characters will die if they mess up. Against the Giants, White Plume Mountain, Ghost Tower of Inverness, the Slaver series. It's the D&D of Greyhawk, the proper Greyhawk, of Assassin's Guild, Thieves, not rogues, and half-orcs, because, man, Gary told us orcs are fecund and sent us for the Websters to find out what fecund meant. It's where the black magic is and always will be forevermore. You guys know how I feel about AD&D. But maybe, maybe your AD&D is Shadow Dark. Maybe your AD&D is Dungeon Crawl Classics. Maybe your AD&D is Swords and Wizardry or Osric. The point is, enjoy what you're doing. If you want to know about how awesome first edition AD&D is, I'll absolutely tell you. I'll expand upon every point. I will expand upon every point I just said. If you give me a minute. So that was a really important moment to me today, guys, to be able to just talk positivity. Not argue over a segment, not one-to-one time versus pause time or whatever. So that's just how I feel. Ask me questions, guys. Ask me questions. You should see a doctor and get that cleared up, your seat at the table. Yang Enzo prefers 4-4 time. Here's a fun piece of music trivia. A rewind to a question you asked earlier. Viability of running a castle siege in AD&D. Have I ever run or played a siege in a campaign? In reverse order, yes, I have, and it's very viable. There is an entire siege weapons section in the Dungeon Master's Guide. We can go look at it if you want to right now together. If you guys want to look at the siege section in AD&D, siege weaponry, it's very viable. It's very, very viable. But while I wait on you to come back with whether or not you want that wonderful Wizardry game, when Peter Gabriel wanted to leave on a solo career, he wanted to quit Genesis. He wrote the song Salisbury Hill, which was about leaving the band Genesis. And he didn't want it to be a Genesis song. He wanted it to be a song that he did. So he did it in that really weird time signature that it's in, which I can't remember. It's like 7/4 or 4/7 or something. It's regarded as a really unusual time signature. And Phil Collins took a look at it and was like, "Yeah, no, I just that won't work." So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in the Dungeon Master's Guide for Sieges, and again, we can look at it if you want to. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments, criticisms, negative, nasty remarks? Okay, you'd like to see the page? Absolutely, we can do that. That's what I do around here. Let's just fire up Adobe. The company is called Adobe because their products are basically mud. They run like it anyway. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Dungeon Minister, have a lovely evening. Thank you very much for stopping by. Okay, so here we go. By the way, Dungeon Minister will be joining us this weekend, Nerd Council of Doom, at Nerd Council of Doom here on YouTube, 3 p.m. We have an entire section in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it starts around page 106. Starts around page 106. Now, you might wonder why we would give much consideration to the construction that is going to be laid siege to. That is, even if that is an off books consideration for you, the Dungeon Master, it should absolutely be a consideration, because you have to know how strong and how the castle that the party is laying siege to, or they are being laid siege to. So you need to look at how it was constructed, how long it was taken to be constructed, and so on and etc. So here are the costs, but we get into down here siege engines and devices of war, and the combat itself is essentially identical to AD&D's combat. So we have the cost of the siege engines, and then we come to War Machine fire tables. Minimum ranges, like a heavy catapult, 180 yards minimum range. Anything under that, heavy catapult's not going to be able to hit. But it has a maximum range of 360 yards. Damage, and now these are creatures. These are versus creatures. So if a heavy catapult hits a man, it's going to do 2 to 12 damage. If it hits a giant ogre, troll, bugbear, gnoll, titan, etc., anything that has large as its type, dragon, it's going to do 4d4 or 4 to 16. Rate of fire, that is in rounds. So 1 every 4 rounds for the heavy catapult. Now, crew is important, because if your magic user, excuse me, hey Janie, you want to go to the dance? If your magic user goes flying past and rains some magic missile down and kills a few of the crew, remember, it has to have a minimum of 4. If it has 6 and he takes out 3 of them, it can't function. So again, all this starts on page 106. Now, this is interesting. Listen to this. Hit determination. Artillerists must operate all missile engines in order to allow them a chance to hit. You may, at your option, allow fighters to opt to learn various artillery engines in lieu of normal hand weapons. The level of the crew chief determines the chance to hit, i.e., if a 0-level fighter, then the first column, if a first or second level, then to the second, etc. And Gary puts us in caps, so this is important. All targets, regardless of actual armor class, are considered as AC0 for purposes of two-hit determination, except ballista targets, which are always considered to be AC10 if exposed to sight. Suddenly, that huge ancient red dragon is not quite as scary. Adjust the base number to hit using the following tables of modifiers. Roll d20, and then if the number equals to or exceeds the adjusted base number, a hit has been scored. Is the target stationary? Well, a castle is stationary, so add +3. Is the target man-sized or smaller? No. Large building, castle wall, +4, so now we're at +7 to hit. Subsequent shots after initial rating or ranging shot, only if target is stationary, +4. So you're basically, if it's a castle and you've got a heavy catapult, you might miss that first shot. Every shot thereafter is going to be at a total of +13. And then there's for shipboard combat. Now let's talk about spells, because you asked about a party being part of that siege. Spells do damage. Bigby's clenched fist can damage wood, soft stone, and hard rock. And then there's catapult missiles, what they do. The spell Dig does 10 damage to like an earthen rampart. Disintegrate's not an auto kill versus a castle. Does 2 points of damage. An earth elemental, the earthquake spell, is particularly dangerous against soft stone. Fireball is only really effective against wood. And that is 1/2 point per spell level of the spellcaster, and assumes fire damage if the wooden target is protected by green hides as wet, reduced damage by 50%. That's to cover all your players who are like, I'm going to burn down the steading. I'm not going to go fight the hill giant chief. Good luck, buddy. You're going to do 3 points of damage to it when you hit it with a fireball. Speaking of giants, hill giants making attack, cloud giants, frost giants, so on and etc. On down the line. All the rules you need right there between pages 106 and 110. Because look at that. A barbican with a rampart wall around it, that's 162 defensive point value. So your heavy catapult missiles, you're going to have to rain fire on that thing for a long time. I hope that answers your question. Nothing like defending a fort from a pack of cheesed off giants. Exactly. Second edition's a castle guide includes 7 and 8 dealing with it. Oh, I did not know that. I have the second edition AD&D books around here. They're actually going to be given to someone. I'm going to be gifting those to someone who wants them. And that person's already been chosen, by the way. Just pump the brakes there before people start frantically typing, it's me. A new home has already been chosen for them. But yeah, I have not seriously dug into 2E. I played a little bit of 2E. So that's about it for me in second edition. But anyway, let's see. It does my favorite kind of thing to run are castle sieges and army combat. It can be a little bit. It can get unwieldy. I have run large scale battles using first edition AD&D. Fundamentally, the best thing you can do in those circumstances, if you're not going to break out chainmail and you're not going to break out swords and spells, is just average everybody's hit points. If it's goblins, everybody has 3, lieutenants have 5, leaders have 8. Don't worry that goblin, did that goblin have 7 hit points or did he have 8? Or did he have 7 hit points or did he have 6? Dang it. Just average it out. Barbican Castle, Robert Phillips. That's the answer to your question. Barbican Castle. So my recommendation to you, if you're going to run a castle siege type scenario, is just use the AD&D rules as written. You will find that you will get great results out of it just the same. Next question. Who's got a question? Somebody's got a question out there. I'll answer your question for you. About me, about my channel, about my games, about AD&D, about original D&D, maybe even be able to feel a little basic D&D. The majority of the sieges you run were when the PCs were the focus of the attack, while the bulk of the attack. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want to get narrative about it, that's fine. I think that's perfectly fine. You know, you can then come back and maybe with a few die rolls adjudicate whether the good guys won or the good guys lost at the castle. Why does your wife buy so many purses? The illusion of choice. There's a very good video by Malcolm Gladwell about spaghetti sauce and the illusion of choice. I highly recommend watching it. I think that's why. But I could be wrong. I don't know your wife personally, John. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, battle system. I have actually the second edition AD&D battle system rule book here. I've never dug into it. Maybe I'll have a look at this. Do I ever incorporate puzzles for the players to figure out, say, to enter a chamber into my adventures? All the time. All the time. I had 3 in one of the modules, WGH2, Temple of the Sun. There is a riddle-based puzzle that the party has to solve. I mentioned Mech Warrior. Do I still BattleTech? No, Robert, I do not. What is the difference between Osric and AD&D First Edition? Rules-wise, there are some notable differences. The monk is not in Osric, for example. I don't recall as Osric having psionics in it. I think spiders, snakes, and sphinxes in Osric are vastly better written than they are in AD&D. I'm teasing that. I wrote the entries for spiders, sphinxes, and snakes for Osric. Yeah, the BattleTech lore was pretty awesome. I quite liked it. Uh, and I mean, I know the guys who wrote Osric, right? I'm like friends with them. I could call one of them up right now and chit chat with them. Um, there's a lot of verve that on purpose is not in Osric. They didn't want to try and ape Gary's style too much. And I'll tell you guys a little bit of a funny story. All the way back in the early 2000s, and here I go, I'm blowing sunshine up my own hind end again, but you're just going to have to live with it. Wait, should I put on the wizard's hat and pretend to be mauled? Should I go full Jason Hall when telling this story? If you guys want me to go full Maldavius, I'll do it. But anyway, I started publishing my AD&D modules in 2000. Well, I started writing them in 2000. I started letting them out into the wide world around 2001. And so here's a little bit of background. TSR, literally to the end of their days, was incredibly litigious about people who created their own D&D stuff and put it out on early computer networks. Like to the point that I've heard a rumor that they were going to sue phone companies to make phone companies disconnect people who ran BBSs out of their houses and put their own D&D netbooks on little bulletin board rings. So, you live here in the Orlando area and it's like, yeah, we got a bulletin board ring. Bob runs his Commodore 64 BBS and I have my Atari 800 and Jim's got his Apple IIe and, we share our phone numbers. And if you want the netbook of ninja assassin cool guys that we came up with, we host it on all three of ours. And they tried to shut that down. I'm going to put a pin in that and come back to it, TXG, because I'm in mid-story mode. So they were very against people sharing stuff. When they saw people on Genie, on AOL, on CompuServe, on Quantum Link, on People Link, on BBSs, on university FTP sites, sharing their own D&D stuff, they went ape. They went absolutely off their banana angry at people. And they would get lawyers involved. They would employ as much lawfare as they could. A nerd's nerd, good to see you. Welcome. That's not true. Your seat at the table, Gary was out by the time that came up. The Blooms wanted their cut. Lorraine Williams wanted her cut. Gary was gone from the company when this legal crap started up. So they made it next to impossible to share stuff, to the point that some early Usenet nodes would strip messages out of Usenet. Like if certain criteria were met, that you were trying to share D&D stuff in a Usenet post, like it would get stripped, deleted by admin. So Wizards of the Coast comes along and they said, well, we're not going to do that anymore. We've got this thing we're working on called the Open Gaming License. And you're going to be able to share your stuff like that if you want. Now, what became of it 24 years later, we can discuss until the end of time. But I tested that. I tested that almost immediately. And my early modules I put up on my website. And the boilerplate, if you dig through those modules, you'll find boilerplate in there that says, I hope Wizards of the Coast doesn't sue me. Please don't sue me. My modules say first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. They ape classic D&D trade dress. They mention IP, Greyhawk, and named IP stuff like with certain spell names and magic items and so on. But I said, you know what? I tied my bandana around my head. I climbed into the cockpit and I attacked the fleet at dawn. Nothing ever happened. I'm not saying nothing will ever happen. I mean, the wheels of law are slow to grind. But I told people all the way back in the early 2000s, if Wizards of the Coast says stop doing this, I'm going to stop doing it immediately. If they park the legal Death Star in orbit over my house and point the main laser at me, it's gone. But I did it just the same. I put my stuff out there. A lot of other people apparently, and I only found this out recently, there were a lot of people watching what I was doing with great interest. I was inadvertently being a canary in the coal mine. And I apparently caused Osric to stumble because I just ran out there and started giving away AD&D stuff that I created on the web. So I found out after the fact, not just a few years ago, that by dint of me going out and just releasing my modules for free, Osric almost didn't happen. Because the guys that created it were like, whoa, wait a second. He's baiting Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast can do something really bad to fan publications. But they didn't come to me and say, Bill, please stop this. They waited to see what would happen, and nothing happened to me. So it's at times like that when I say I kind of sort of kicked off the whole OSR, kind of sort of did. But that was their mindset. So if I'm just sitting here one day and you just guys just hear thunk, and I go over and there's a fletched dart in my neck. Well, you know what happened. So better brains than mine, Stuart Marshall and Matt Finch, better brains than mine, sat down and said, okay, it has been proven in court in at least 2 cases in the United States, TSR versus Mayfair and the makers of Trivial Pursuit versus a small company that I can't remember who they are, that you cannot copyright game mechanics, only the presentation of game mechanics. Nobody owns the copyright to Jax. I might invent a Jax that uses a flashing LED ball and little computer jacks that go yay when you pick them up. Nobody else could do that. I could patent that. But I couldn't stop you from making metal jacks and having a bouncing ball. Only the presentation. What the guys who made Osric did was they said, we are starting with 3rd edition or 3.5. I can't remember if 3.5 was out at that point, as our baseline, and adding non-copyrightable mechanics to it that just so happen to make it into first edition compatible D&D. This is 2007. Ryan Dancy, all those folks, they're gone now. All the cool people are gone. They had a baby over Osric. They completely went bananas because of Osric. They sent emails, not cease and desist emails, when they heard that Osric was going to be released. They sent emails to people and said, would you please not release this or take it down just for 24? All we're asking is 24 hours, just 24 hours. Why they wanted that was to legally get ahead of it and stop it from spreading further. But I saw those letters and I saw their legalese and I saw their legal arguments. First, they claimed it was a violation of the OGL. Then they claimed it was a violation of the D20 license. Osric was never a D20 product. And it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally, the chief creator of Osric said, you're going to have to give me a legal document that outlines where this is a violation of the open gaming license. Not what you feel, but something that line by line. Dead silent from that day forward. And that was 16 or 17 years ago now. Once Osric was out, Swords and Wizardry was out. And once that happened, we had the OSR. Dungeon Crawl Classics. What else? Blueholme. What? You know what? And no, I'd be here all night. I would be here all night talking about what that was, about all the stuff that came out. But everybody who's released a game, an old school game, they base it on what Osric got away with. In fact, so many of those games will say they're variations on Swords and Wizardry or they're variations on Osric, not on D&D. They'll still stick the OGL boilerplate in their products, but they stand on the shoulders of Osric. But Osric is missing some things that make it that make it sort of completely AD&D. But if you know where to look, you can add those things back. You know, you got a player's handbook, you got the rules from Monk and Psionics and the Bard. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Now, TXG asked this a while ago before I started bloviating. Do I know if some of the changes WotC made in 5e, i.e. raised to species, ever made it into the 1e reprints? No. On the webpage where you can go and you can buy first edition AD&D on drive-thru and on D&D Beyond, there is a boilerplate about how, you know, Gary was icky and the 1970s were horrible and everybody was, you know, goose stepping and you know, women were kept locked in cages and it was all Gary Gygax's fault. And please don't think that we're endorsing that because we're publishing classic D&D because we want Grognard's money. Even though we would never admit to it. There's that boilerplate on Drive-Thru RPG and on D&D Beyond. But the language changes have never been put in there. Even in the stuff that they've had to touch Danger at Dunwater, not Danger at Dunwater, something something mine or the other. Uh, give me. I'm sorry. Let me give me just a moment. When they released an A0 module for the Against the Slave Lords, um, Danger at Dark Shelf Quarry by Skip Williams, who was a TSR OG anyway. It talks about slavers. It's not, yeah, it's not ballardized. Um, so yeah, no, they never pushed any of that stuff in. I think the closest that they did to it was saying absolutely unforgivably horrible things about Gary and Dave in that 500-page original D&D walkthrough that they released um, back a few months ago. Their idea of honoring the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons was to tear at Gary and tear at Dave. That was how they, I just. So, um, next question. Any other questions? Aprimo is running out to patent LED jacks. That was your barrier to entry on that offering. Expand on that, please. Man of War. My thoughts on Legend of the Five Rings. It looked fun, but I never played it. I may have some Legends of the Five Rings books around here. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I heard good things about it. I know that for a long, 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 long time, Reaper had a license to make minis for it. I wish I had more uh, I had more to say about it than that. Wonderful Wizard Games. Oh yeah, no, I understand. I understand. Um, my thoughts on MERP. Um, I played it a few times when I was a younger man. It was okay. I mean, it was just Rollmaster light. If you like Rollmaster, it was completely fine. Um, but I've sort of I've shared my opinion before on Rollmaster, and it's it's a little you know varied, my opinion on Rollmaster. um, that's very true. That your seat at the table. It's a little easier these days. So here's the thing. I find that when I go to cons or to game days, when I go to conventions or game days, um, if I say I'm running classic D&D, it generally doesn't matter. I have people who will want to sit down and play. Um, if I was going to do a long campaign of looking for players, I I don't know how successful I would be. My Monday night game is first edition AD&D. And let me put an asterisk here. Um, my Monday night game is first edition AD&D, and it's been going for 11 years this summer. Um, it has been a grind. It has been a hard fought 11 years because the first couple of years it was 3 or 4 players. Um, the internet has made it a lot easier to concatenate AD&Ders, first edition, or even original D&D players. One thing I will tell you about MERP, any feelings about Rollmaster aside, one thing I will say about MERP is that MERP had amazing source books. There's a reason you see source books for MERP on eBay for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because they were just that damn good, and they had great art on the covers. But I have found that event games, people don't care. They see the Dwarven Forge set up, they see this classic Dungeon Master screen, and they want to be a part of that. They want to sit down and they're like, I want some of this. I want some of this Stranger Things vibe that's happening right here. And it's a lot of fun. Now, interestingly, and I think it's going to vary book to book on how much they leaned into this. They did publish some AD&D compatible MERP stuff, in that they said, hey, if you're using they called it a 3 to 18 based system. Here's what these particular monsters or characters would be like in a 3 to 18 system. So they tried for a little while to dual stat those suckers for AD&D, which I thought was very cute. Torrid Hill H. Okay. That is a mouthful. I just at a glance, I thought it said Toroid Head Beach Busail. So I apologize. But that's about the TB. There we go. TB. That's games long ago. The funniest TTRPG horror story ever that I played has to do with MERP, and I've told you guys that story before. TB, is that your given name? That's fascinating. Let me see here. Drama Goblin says, how do I feel about systems do roll on a progression table type of level ups instead of linear progression? Gamma World does that. I'm completely okay with it for systems that aren't first edition AD&D or original D&D. Don't try and bolt that into AD&D, but yeah, like I like how Gamma World does it. Do you get smarter, better spoken, stronger, tougher, some of the above, none of the above? Yes, your seat at the table. That is it. They had the conversion charts in there. Guys, let me just ask you a favor here. If you're just tuning in, maybe you're over on X, maybe not. Maybe you're watching right here on YouTube, but you haven't yet. Would you please click the subscribe button? Click the bell icon for notifications. We're at 6,906. We're 94 subscriptions away from hitting 7,000. And when we hit 7,000, well, you know what that means. Not much, but we are 3,000 away from that sweet in real life in-person convention that I will hold when this channel hits 10,000 subs. We are just that much closer. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for notifications, please do that. Please do that. But anyway, Drama Goblins, yeah, I'm okay with it for some systems. I am a-okay with it. So oh, is there going to be a convention called BillCon that's going to be released when I do my con? Well, I hope you'll take time. I hope you'll take you'll take time to come to the Guac, the Great Underground Overland Gaming Convention, which is what my convention is called. Yours keeps plodding along. Half of your subscribers. Oh, dude, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing in the world wrong with that, my friend. You're building a community. You are building a community. You know, I got faux angry at someone the other day who was telling me like I was lamenting the fact at this point it was like I don't know, like 6,700 or something like that. And it had kind of been, you know, the line of subscriptions and drop subscription was just kind of doing that. I was getting like less than one a day at one point. It was like back before I had 1,000 subs. And, you know, as unsustainable as I knew it was, I was kind of very high on the seeing my, I was like, oh, I dropped a newsy video and, you know, got 150 more subs. It's very nice for me. Very nice. And I hadn't seen that in a long time. And I was like, man, I just, you know, so demoralizing. I look up and I see these drama farming TTRPG channels, you know, Bob World Builder drops a fucking video and gets 282,000 views. I can only imagine what the sub count pickup off of something like that is. And he, you know, he talks about scratching his belly flab in front of the WotC building and what a great experience it was. And I'm like, I interviewed Gary Gygax. Nope. And this person, well-meaning, and like I said, it was faux angry, was like, yeah, but you know, with your channel, it's just like, don't say it. Don't say I'm doing it the right way. Don't say that my channel is better because it's pure and small. What the hell does that mean? I'm smiling. I'm smiling when I say that. Hey, Gonzalo Lira. That's right. We're going to talk a little bit about the guac. We're going to talk a little bit about the guac. I agree with you, Drama Goblins, and that's all I'm going to say on it. So we have a convention. We have a convention, and you know what, Wonderful Wizard of Games? I'm going to come back to that because I have a few answers. We actually do have a convention. No, it's not the one at 10,000 subs. Right now, this spring or summer, depends on how you want to call it. We have a convention right here on Discord. The Great Underground Online Gaming Convention, the GUAC, is yours to play. The cost to you is $0. $0 to come and play at our convention on Discord. We're doing it from the 21st to the 25th. We have got guest speakers. We have got games you can play. We've got space for you to run games. Your travel cost, $0. Your badge cost, $0. Snacks and accommodations, that's up to you and where you're staying. But May 21st through May 25th, the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention on Discord. You just head over there, you join up on the Discord. Let me know, or let Doomsword Deathmaster know if you want to be a game master. We'll flip that switch and make you a game master, and you can set your game up and go. Gonzalo Lira's bar tab, who is apparently spending his kid's college fund on advertising for his, has got a game, Tall Tales of the Wee Folk. I'm going to have to get in on that game. I'm going to have to play that. I'm going to be running games. I'm going to be running Space Hulk. I'm going to be running Dungeon. I may even run some Hero Quest. I'm definitely going to run something kind of new. We talked to some developers of a Greek myth-themed TTRPG. I'm going to be running a session of that. Will there be invisible horsey rides at the BillCon? In the space of your hotel room, you can do whatever you want. And again, for BillCon, I don't know. You'd have to ask the organizers of BillCon, because I'm organizing the guac. But anyway, thank you for the Super Gonzalo. Super Gonzalo in color. Da, 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 da. So let's see. Wonderful Wizard game. If I had the chance to remake an AD&D module that had a lot of issues, which would you choose? I would. Okay. I would. Stephanie, that's fine. You know where to get a hold of me. You know where to get a hold of me, Stephanie. You fire away. Fire away, my friend. And I will help you out. I will put a bullet in Todd's cloning machine. I will unplug it and cut the cord. Anyway, okay. No conditionals. Any module that was published for AD&D. Yes, I would take ST1 up the garden path, and I would make it in the module that it should have been. For those of you who don't know, and we got to do a video about this one day, guys. I gotta do a video about this one day. For those of you who don't know, part of the suburban small village renewal that went on in the 1980s under the Thatcher government was reclaiming village gardens and village parks. And so they would have garden parties in these small villages and towns, particularly in the north of England. And they looked for corporate sponsors, and they said, whatever you do, it's got to be themed to what we're going for here. The English garden, the English sitting park. And at TXG, thank you very much. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for stopping in. But the good folks at TSR UK wanted to sponsor it. The government said, okay, we don't know what a Dungeons and Dragons is, but if you want to bring your Dungeons and Dragons, make sure it is themed to this. So they took a map of the center of the town, fantasy themed it, filled it with a few monster encounters and a couple of new monsters, then new monsters, and called it a day. And Graham Morris did it. It's bad. Now, it says right in the intro, look, this is just meant to be silly. Don't take it too seriously. Okay. It's not good. They printed 300. They sold about 50. Graham Morris said, and this is not a direct quote, but he essentially said, I was disheartened to find out that a case lot of 200 of them was found. I thought they had all been destroyed. It's super duper rare. If you find a copy in the wild, it usually has a price tag in excess of a few $1,000s for it because of how rare and how few that were printed. A module set in a town that had existed for 1,000 years. I mean, the historical opportunity that they had in that module and to release the schlock that they did was a travesty. If you said, Bill, set a module in a town in England, a small village in England, there is so much. I mean, European fantasy informs every footprint of D&D to a certain point. I would take ST1. I would take the garden and the map of the town proper. I would gut it and I would rework it from the bottom up, because I could do a fantastic up the garden path module. I have ideas spinning around my head right now about what I would do with it. But I certainly wouldn't do that. Christopher Sims, good to see you. How are you? So that is what I would choose. That I would choose ST1 up the garden path. I hope that answers your question. Hey, that is Errol Otis art in Alma Mater, so you take that right back. That art is by definition awesome. By the way, we've had Errol on this show before. Errol's an awesome guy. I love Errol. Arduin Grimoire, Jason McMahon. Yes, I actually have. But the question is, can I reach them without causing a disaster? I don't know that I can. I have the original Arduin books. Can he do it? Maybe. Possibly. This is a fool's errand. Why am I doing this? This is just going to cause a disaster. I have so much stuff stuffed around over here. It's not even funny. My game studio is a disaster, guys. Okay. I have the first three Arduin Grimoires. I have, here I'm going to jump zoom. I have the Arduin Grimoire. I have Welcome to Skull Tower. And I have the Runes of Doom, Volume 3. So Volumes 1, 2, and 3. These are nigh illegible. I don't mean because they're old and they're abused. These are, I think these are 2-power readers. Ironically, I need readers to see what power they are. The text is too tiny in these to read. I need to find scans of these. So let me tell you a fun story about these. Old book smell. Dave Hargrave got himself a copy of Original Dungeons and Dragons. There is an infamous typo in OD&D where under in Volume 2, Monsters and Treasures, the monsters are supposed to have a percentage chance of being in their lair. Percent lair, L-A-I-R. There is a typo. So the first few printings, actually, I don't know if this was ever fixed. The first few printings of OD&D have it listed as percent liar, L-A-I-R, or L-I-A-R, liar. Chance liar, that's right. Dave Hargrave assumed that was just the chance that a monster wouldn't tell you the truth if you talked to it. What are the odds that a given monster... I swear to God, I can't make this up. So, yes, percent liar was carried over into Arduin. And every monster has a chance that it might not be telling you the truth. Because Dave Hargrave thought the percent layer meant percent liar because of the typo. That's right. I read about it in Murphy's Rules too, and I didn't believe it. And then someone was kind enough to give me the Arjun Grimoire books not that long ago, actually, and I looked, and son of a bitch, there it is. I mean, I wish I had my Murphy's Rules book handy. Do I? Do I see it? Over here? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, once upon a time, Steve Jackson Games published a magazine called The Space Gamer, The Fantasy Gamer. And it was their Dragon magazine. And they had a funnies column in there. And a lot of times, the funnies column would feature Murphy's Rules. And Murphy's Rules are things that they found due to typos, silly rules, misprints, whatever, in not only other, but their own in-house games that they would spoof. And they would do funny little editorial cartoons. And in the mid to late 1980s, after they stopped publishing Space Gamer, Fantasy Gamer, they compiled all of those cartoons into a single, basically it's a D&D module sized volume, really, with a stapled cover called Murphy's Rules. And I got a copy from a friend ages ago, and I absolutely love it. It's somewhere around the office. Good for you, Drama Goblins. I think you'll like it. So Murphy's Rules mentions in there that due to a typographical error, original Dungeons and Dragons has under the listing for a chance for a monster to be in its lair, percent liar. Not to be outdone, the Arduin Grimoire list percent liar also for its monsters. But Hargrave took it right to the ropes. He said in the rules, this is the chance that a monster will be lying. He didn't even consider that it might have been a typo. Didn't even consider that it might be a typo. Jason McMahon says, I'm here on Wednesday for Gamma World. You mean you're here on Friday for Gamma World? Or are you in a time zone where when it's Friday here, it's Wednesday where you are? I didn't know the Earth was that big, to be completely honest with you, but and I wish to God these pages were printed bigger, because I literally I cannot read this. And from what I know about Arduin, it's probably a good thing that I can't. They are very much Hargrave's completely, absolutely mental gonzo level of house OD&D rules. You're on here Wednesdays, you just don't speak much. That's fine. That's fine. All I ask is that folks just say hello every once in a while. I, on the other hand, am going to be saying goodbye soon. We are at the top of hour number 2. Again, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed, who has tuned in, and decided to watch this show. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate if you're watching the show right now, whether you're watching it later or you're watching the live stream right now, and you've hit that subscribe button. I really, really appreciate you. If you want to support the show on Patreon or via YouTube membership, you can do that. But clicking that subscribe button, that is the bestest thing in the world, because that helps the channel grow. I've hit that first plateau. I hit 1,000 subscribers. Now, when Wizards of the Coast blew up in 2023 and I started posting news videos, I was getting pushed out to the front of YouTube's pages. Like, people were telling me, dude, I'm not logged into my YouTube account. I'm not on the PC that my YouTube account is usually logged in. I just went to YouTube on another device that I have no login, no identities, no cookies or anything on. You're on the front. This video about the WotC OGL disaster is up there. And I was like, I went to bed January 17th and I had 1,500 subscribers. I got up on January the 18th and I had like 2,600 subscribers. And I would be sitting here getting ready to record a video and have my update real-time thing for my subs going. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys more than I can say. So thank you all for subscribing. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for an absolutely wonderful conversation this evening, and for stopping by tonight and following up and saying hello, just like I asked you to. Thank you, everyone. I will be back tomorrow night. We are going to live play Gamma World on this channel. Yang Yan Zhao, Doomsword Deathmaster, Kevin, maybe we will have Kanek here. She's off doing something. I don't know. Wisconsinites, what are you going to do? They just run off and do things in the summer, but maybe she'll be here, but we'll definitely have those three cats here. I will be back on Saturday with Yang Yan Zhao and with Dungeon Minister over on our Nerd Council of Doom channel, where we plan our benevolent takeover of all of your earthly media. So tune in for that too. Guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. And even though we didn't get to play any AD&D tonight, I now leave you with a random monster encounter. Let me just roll the dice. Oh, look, it's an owl bear. Peace. Good night. Love you all.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around, some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to